There's an enormous saying that goes something like, born too late to explore the Earth, born too early to explore the universe. And to some extent, that's true. Living in the 21st century means we're far too late to be taking daring trips alongside Renaissance explorers to map a new continent or be the first to sail around the globe, and human space travel is still incredibly limited, so we've been born too early to take a trip to Alpha Centauri. It's disappointing, we know. But what this sentiment ignores is the fact that there's still a surprising amount of unexplored territory left on Earth, ranging from the oceans to the mountains and just about everything in between. So today we're covering 5 locations that to this day have remained largely untouched by modern human activity, some of the last places on Earth that mankind is yet to conquer. Our first location takes us to the island of Madagascar, where near the northwest coast, you'll find a place that looks so strange it seems like it belongs on an alien planet. This is Tsingy de Bemar National Park, often referred to as the Stone Forest, for its thousands upon thousands of massive, densely packed limestone needles. These stone spires reach up to 100 meters in height, creating a jagged landscape that has been revered for its beauty by the locals for thousands of years. In fact, in the local language, the name of the park roughly translates to where one cannot walk barefoot. Since the study of the region began in the 20th century, we've learned quite a bit about this unique place. For starters, we know that the limestone towers were originally created underwater, likely around 200 million years ago, before they were raised up to the surface due to tectonic or volcanic activity. Tropical rain then eroded the soft rock, creating the sharp edges and spiky seams that are visible today. We also know that it's quite the hub of biodiversity, with several species of lemurs and plants being endemic to the park. However, there remain huge chunks of the park's territory that are still completely untouched by human hands. The part accessible to tourists makes up just a small percentage of it, just on the edges. The rest is either off-limits due to it being a strict nature reserve, or simply impassable due to the terrain, which is so sharp that it can easily cut through not only flesh, but even equipment like boots. What this means is that there could be any number of undiscovered plants, animals, or natural formations hidden inside the jagged forest, and we may not know about them for years to come. After all, nearly every scientific expedition has revealed something new, such as the discovery that there are entire separate ecosystems on a single stone spire. The summit of the rock, the slopes, and the base are all home to entirely different species of animals, plants, and insects that have adapted to their conditions. Deeper within the park, one can imagine finding never-before-seen species, entrances to unexplored cave systems, and much more. Just let me interrupt today's video to talk about our lovely sponsor today, and that would be Keeps. Now look, as you can tell, I know a thing or two about male pattern baldness. My hair ran for the hills a long time ago, and it's not coming back. However, I'm fairly confident that if Keeps had been there back in the day when things had just started getting smooth and shiny for me, it might have been a different story. Keeps is an online subscription service that makes it easy and more affordable for guys like me to treat male pattern baldness from the comfort of their own home. That's right, no inconvenient trips to the doctors or pharmacy that eats time out of your busy schedule. You order online and it will be delivered directly to your door at whatever time you deem convenient. And on top of that, it's affordable, typically half the cost of a traditional pharmacy. Keeps offers clinically proven treatments. According to studies, these treatments are 90% effective at treating hair loss and can increase hair growth by up to 35%. Plus, they have a 2-in-1 gel that's like a superhero for your hair. Most Keeps customers notice results within 6 months of starting treatments. And in addition to great treatments, Keeps also offers hair thickening shampoo, conditioner, and styling pomade, so you can help stop your hair loss and make your hair look good while doing it. Keeps has helped nearly 1 million men keep their hair, with over 4,500 5-star reviews from satisfied customers. Every delivery is non-branded, all in plain packaging, and deliveries are made in plain unbranded trucks, so no need to be embarrassed. It may be too late for me, but it's not too late for you. Halt the loss in its tracks before it's beyond hope, and regrow, refresh, and reclaim your head. For a special offer, go to keeps.com/Simon or click the link in the description below. That's keeps.com/Simon. And now back to today's video. Rising up from the border of Bhutan and Tibet is a mountain of incredible size. This is Gangar Punam, the elevation of its summit measuring in at a staggering 7,570 meters, or nearly 25,000 feet. This makes it the tallest mountain in Bhutan and the 40th tallest on Earth. Impressive, yes, but this accomplishment is somewhat drowned out by the fact that its corner of the globe is home to nearly all of the world's tallest mountains, most of which are in the Himalayas and the Hindu Kush. However, there's one thing that sets this peak apart from the rest. You see, other mountains of this magnitude are subject to hundreds of climbing attempts every year, including Mount Everest, which sees 800 or so climbers annually, with more than 6,600 people having completed the journey to the top since we started keeping records. But the number of people who have reached the summit of Gangar Punam is 0. Not a single person, at least that we know of, has ever reached the top of Bhutan's highest peak, making it the tallest unclimbed mountain in the world. That's not to say people haven't tried. The mountain was first officially measured and recorded in the 1920s, but this documentation failed to provide an accurate location for the mountain. In fact, the mapping was so bad that the first team who prepared themselves for the climb couldn't even find the mountain to begin with. A lot of this stems from its location on the border of Bhutan and Tibet, as some maps will place it entirely within one or the other, oftentimes for political reasons. This debate extends to another mountain named Kulakangri, which is reported by some to be slightly taller than Gangar Punam and also is the subject of a dispute between Bhutan and Tibet. However, to set the record straight, most of the international community agrees that the peak of the second mountain lies entirely within Tibet, and most maps put the Tibetan-Bhutan border right through the summit of our famous unclimbed mountain, so they essentially share the tallest point. After 3 teams failed previously, a Japanese expedition made plans to be the first to reach the elusive summit in 1998 and even got permission from the Chinese Mountaineering Association. However, they couldn't secure permission from Bhutan, and so were forced to start from the less favorable Tibetan side and were unable to reach the top, only able to reach a subsidiary peak to the north. Since this Japanese team, there is yet to be another attempt, and it's likely that we won't see anyone anytime soon. This is because in 1994, Bhutan banned the climbing of all mountains higher than 6,000 meters, and then in 2003, they banned mountaineering entirely, making the journey illegal. The reason mountaineering has been banned is out of respect for local beliefs, which view the mountains as sacred and the home of the gods, and they don't fancy this ground being inevitably desecrated by campsites, trash, and the bodies of tourists who won't make it up the mountain. Our next region is unique to this list in the fact that it's actually explored by people every day. The caveat is that we have little to no communication with these people, as they are indigenous tribes in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, some of which remain completely uncontacted to this day. Valdohavari is a protected indigenous region on the western edge of Brazil near the border with Peru. The protected region encompasses an area of more than 85,000 square meters, that's 32,000 square miles, making it larger than the entire Czech Republic. Several thousand people live inside Valdohavari, including an estimated 2,000 people from 14 uncontacted tribes. To protect them and preserve their culture, the Brazilian government has made it illegal for anyone to enter that is not indigenous, meaning that the majority of the region is entirely unmapped and unexplored, at least officially. Experts estimate that the area is potentially home to thousands of undiscovered plant species and a plethora of new animals, which would likely include types of frog and various insects. We won't find these anytime soon, though, since at the moment it can only legally be viewed from the air. And speaking of the air, the indigenous-only rule was broken in October 2009 when a plane's engine died while flying over the region. Now, the Amazon is an awful place to crash land, since you'd be hard-pressed to find a flat piece of ground, and indeed, the pilot deemed that his best course of action was to plunge into the Amazon River. 9 passengers survived out of the original 11 on board, and fortunately their crash was noticed by a well-known local tribe, the Matis, who took in the survivors and alerted nearby authorities. After being rescued, it must have been strange for the 9 survivors to realize that they had been standing in a place that, until the untimely arrival of their plane, had been untouched by modern society. However, there is one issue that spoils the unexplored pristineness of the nature in this place, and that's the fact that this area is a known route for drug traffickers. The remoteness and lack of authorities makes it an attractive option for group smuggling illicit substances across the border with Peru. And not only drugs, but oftentimes fishermen and loggers will sneak into the reserve knowing that they'll have zero competition for their goods. Oftentimes, these illegal trades end up bringing serious harm to the local indigenous tribes and those who try to stop them. In 2022, British journalist Dom Phillips and Brazilian indigenous expert Bruno Pereira traveled to Havari to speak with some local tribes. The two were public advocates for bringing an end to drug trafficking and illegal trade in this protected region, and this unfortunately made them a target. When they failed to show up to their meeting, it was found that they'd been murdered for getting too close to some information about the drug trade, a crime for which 6 people were charged. In 1991, while looking for some quality wood to gather, a Vietnamese logger named Ho Kna stumbled across the entrance to a cave that he didn't recognize. He investigated a little bit, but hearing the roar of fast-flowing water within and feeling a strong wind, decided to turn around and come back a later time. Unfortunately, after a short while, he forgot the cave's location, though he did mention its existence to two members from the British Cave Research Association who were examining the area. They asked him if he could find the cave again, and he managed to do so nearly 20 years later, in 2009. The researchers returned to this news and began investigating the cave system, which turned out to be absolutely enormous. However, they weren't able to explore the entire cave, as they were stopped in their tracks by a 60-meter-tall wall, which they nicknamed the Great Wall of Vietnam. The following year, they came back better prepared and were able to traverse the wall, reaching what they initially believed to be the end of the main cave passage. The cave was named Hang Song Dung, roughly translating as Cave of the Mountain River, because inside the tunnels flows a large underground river. And it would be an understatement to say that this cave is just a big cave. It's so monstrous that at times the ceiling is 200 meters high and the tunnel is 150 meters wide. This means you could fit an entire Boeing 747 inside it and it wouldn't touch the walls. The main passage is 5 kilometers long, and once researchers had passed the Great Wall, they encountered some of the world's largest stalagmites rising up 80 meters from the floor, as well as cave pearls that were as large as baseballs. In total, the cave has an estimated volume of 38,000 cubic meters, making it by far the largest by volume on Earth. But this isn't the end of the story. In 2019, British divers were invited to explore the fast-flowing subterranean river of the cave, and they found that it connected to an entirely separate cave system called Hang Thong, increasing its volume by more than 1 million cubic meters. Tourism in the cave is highly limited. A permit is required to enter, a maximum of 1,000 of which are issued each year, and tourists are only allowed to explore the cave through a single authorized company. There are an uncountable number of unexplored passages twisting and turning throughout the caves, many of which are too dangerous for humans to crawl through. There's no telling how many more cave systems it connects to, how many new rivers or geologic features are hidden, and how much larger the cave could really be. What's extra fascinating about this cave are the several places where the ceiling has collapsed, exposing the inside of the cave to the sun and allowing life to flourish that is normally not seen in cave systems. It's also said that humans have explored only 5 to 10% of the ocean floor, but this estimate is on the smaller end. The actual figure is closer to 20%, and it's steadily rising with the various ongoing ventures to map the entire thing. The project's moving forward at a good pace too, but we're still left with an unbelievable amount of seafloor that has never been seen by human eyes. In fact, the deepest part of the ocean, Challenger Deep within the Mariana Trench, is so remote that until 2019, it had been visited by fewer people than had walked on the surface of the moon. And it's not just the floor that we haven't seen, but also the dark expanses of water that you have to pass through to get there. There are a lot of problems with exploring the bottom of the ocean. Visibility is non-existent as sunlight doesn't even get close to reaching the bottom. Water pressure becomes a deadly, crushing force. Oxygen has to be stored and brought along, and the list goes on. And all of this has to be handled throughout the entire descent and ascent, which covers quite a long distance because the ocean is a lot deeper than many people realize. To put its depth into perspective, if you took Mount Everest, flipped it upside down and placed it on the surface of the ocean, its summit still wouldn't reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench. All of this means that the bottom of the ocean, and especially its trenches, are both dangerous and insanely expensive to explore, leaving so much to learn just out of our reach. Recent research on DNA collected from the ocean floor led scientists to announce that the deep seafloor is filled with entire branches of life yet to be discovered. And this isn't just microorganisms like you might think. Despite the immense pressure, animals have adapted to conditions in the abyss, including giant sea spiders and many species of worms. Perhaps the most intriguing, though, is the colossal squid. For so long, its existence was dismissed as a myth, until evidence for it began to pile up, and eventually an actual specimen was captured and examined. These behemoths are known to reach 14 meters in length, though this number could be much higher since we admittedly don't have a lot of data. Also, the largest known colossal squid had a beak that was smaller than the one found in the stomach of a sperm whale, an indication that we have no clue how big these things get. The point is, if such a gigantic animal could live at the depths of 1,000 meters or more and remain undetected for so long, who's to say that there aren't more large species that we've yet to find? We're not talking about the megalodon here, but taking a serious look at the theory that animals tend to get larger in deeper parts of the ocean is called deep-sea gigantism, and stems from the findings that larger animals are more efficient in their energy usage. The sleeper shark, for example, is 7 meters long and lives at depths of 2,000 meters. Knowing this, there could be many more titans that have adapted to the pitch-black life of the deep ocean, just waiting to be discovered. And the future of ocean discoveries bright. Earlier we mentioned that more people have visited the moon than the Mariana Trench until 2019, and that's because between 2019 and the production of this video, 24 more people have visited its depths, with nearly every mission piloted by retired American naval officer Victor Vescovo. Vescovo recently completed the 5 Deeps expedition, during which he visited the deepest point in all 5 oceans and much more, becoming the first person to reach places such as the deepest point in the Tonga Trench and Malloy Deep in the Arctic Ocean. Vescovo was also the first person to dive to Challenger Deep twice, and has since done it 15 times. Besides the unmatched human drive to explore our planet, these successful expeditions also represent improvements in submersible technology, bringing an optimistic outlook to the future of ocean exploration.